Welcome back, y'all. Today we're going to be discussing what my dream idea is for a Pokemon game. Now, what exactly is my idea for a Pokemon game? Simply put, it would be a mixture of Pokken Tournament and the mainline games. What does that mean? Well, you'd have the exploration and story of the main games where you go around trying to become the champion of the region. But the difference is when you go into battle, you basically switch perspectives and go to your Pokemon. And then you take control of your Pokemon and you're able to move around the battlefield and do things like that. Basically, I'd be able to live in the anime. That's all it really is. Now, the way how I imagine this working, it would also bring forth new ways of using some old moves. So, String Shot. Normally what it does in the game, it reduces your foe's speed. But the way how I imagine it happening in this game is if you're in the woods, you can use it as like Spider-Man and swing from tree to tree, or again, keeping with the Spider-Man example, just do out little web traps on the ground, so that way if your opponent steps in it, they're just all of a sudden they're slowed down. And I think this would also bring some fun differences with the weather moves. Now, Sunny Day, for instance, whenever it's normally used, fire type attacks are strengthened, and I believe some water type moves are weakened. What this could do is, let's say if there's like a little small like pond or something in the middle of the field, Sunny Day could cause some of that water to pretty much start to evaporate because of how hot it is. And Rainy Day, using in combination with like a move like Dig, where it can go in between the entry hole and the exit hole and just pretty much cause it to flood. Doing this, like I said, it'd bring in a whole nother level of battle management, because you have to take into effect that you could possibly change the battlefield at will. Now, for the hard and difficult part, for this to work, I think that there would need to be some cuts made, some changes. You'd have to limit the amount of Pokemon for this to fully work, and I would want to make it to where at least 3 Pokemon from each gen are involved, including one starter. So it'd be a starter and 2 other Pokemon. So before we get started, I'm going to probably split this up into 2 separate videos. We're going to do the first 4 gens in this video, and then next week, the second video, we're going to have the final 4. Alright, so we're going to be starting off with the Kanto region. First 2 choices, I'm just going to go ahead and get it out of the way. Charizard and Pikachu. Charizard because I'm a fanboy. Charizard's my favorite type, and it's literally the only reason why I can justify him being in this, and even I will admit I'm kind of tired of Charizard getting all the love. Second one, Pikachu. It's Pikachu. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a Pokemon game. He's going to be in it. Third, this was I decided to go with Alakazam. The main reason why I picked him is 1, he's strong in the games, and 2, as a psychic type, I believe that he would bring forth some really cool movement and some battle experiences by being able to use his psychic abilities to, 1, either move some terrain around, pick up his opponent, toss them around to where, let's say if there's some water or whatever, they get tossed into the water, causing them to move slowly, so that way as you, in control of Alakazam, could, let's say, use Psy-Wave or any of his other moves to deal damage while they're trying to get out the water. Alright, for Johto, we're going to be choosing for our starter, I picked Feraligatr. Now, the reason why I picked Feraligatr is because as a water type and as a pretty much an alligator, I think that would bring forth some fun movement capabilities, especially like if you're fighting near water and everything. He can swim in the water, he can do all this other stuff. Plus, the way how I would see it, using moves like Surf, he would be able to control that water and just like, kind of like at the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where Aang brings forth all that water and just like kind of like puts out all the fires whenever he gets done fighting Ozai. You could do the same thing. You can use Surf, and so a small amount of water, you can pretty much rise it up, and then just have it flood the field, so that way you'll even have more water, so that way As for Alligator, you'd have more opportunities to use different attacks. So like that's the way how I imagine Surf would be using, is that you have to actually use a body of water. I think that plus just being able to like swim around as for Alligator, just like I think that'd be really fun because he could shoot out of the water. Let's say use bite on his opponent, and then possibly bring his opponent into the water with him, and then just do a little bit of damage that way. Secondly, I picked Scizor. I think he's just going to be a fun all-around combatant. He's fast. He can hover. I wouldn't necessarily say he could fly, and he's pretty strong. You could go for hit and runs. You could come from above and attack them that way. If you like speedy characters, this is going to be the one you pick. I would say think like Minato from the Naruto games whenever he goes into his awakened form and how he's just like able to like teleport. That's how I imagine Scizor playing, and just the fact that you can just like move. You have so much good versatility, movement. You're just so fast. You can, like I said, I don't imagine him flying like let's say Charizard would, but he can hover and he just moves fast, and you can sneak right behind your opponents and deal that damage. So for our third option for Johto, I originally was thinking about using Donphan for the sole fact that him turning into a wheel and rolling around would be very fun to use. But I decided I wanted to go with an absolute monster of a Pokemon, and that's why I decided to go with Tyranitar. The way I picked him is because, one, as strong as he is, I think he would bring forth like a control element that we haven't had yet on this list, by being able to change the ground with all of his rock type, ground type moves and everything, and plus with his ability Sandstream, he would just because it'd be a real pain in the ass that way, and being able to like, let's say I think he can use his move Earth Power. If not, he can use it in this game because this is my dream game and no one can tell me otherwise. So if let's say he uses Earth Power, he's able to pretty much act like an Earthbender from Avatar, keeping in with that same reference. So he's able to lower the ground, so that was if his opponent's running at him, that opponent falls down into a hole. He can raise it up, so that way, let's say if he wanted to use Hyper Beam, the opponent's not going to be able to see, oh crap, Hyper Beam's coming, and all of a sudden just shoots through some mountains, like little hills that he's made. And I just think that would be a really fun, different way of using him, as opposed to, I think he's normally used as like a wall, like a defensive wall in the games. I just think that bringing forth a control element to this wall Pokemon would be really fun and really exciting way to just bring forth new life into some of these Pokemon. Alright, now we're on Hoenn. So for our starter, we got our first grass type. We have Sceptile. And again, going with some of the choices from before, I think that this would be a good, fun, fast type Pokemon with some relatively good power. He could use the terrain, mess with your opponent. So if you're in, like, let's say if you're in a grassy field, he would be able to, the way I see how him playing out is, one, you could just like, he could get low to the ground and just blitz through the grass, and just like, because he's a grass type, he'd be able to have a better, I would say almost a better sense of what's going on, know where everybody's at. Think of kind of like a sonar or Toph's seismic sense, again, staying with the Avatar reference. I also think if you're in, let's say if you're in the woods, like going back with the string shot example, he could get in the trees, jump from tree to tree, almost like Naruto ninjas, and just all of a sudden you just look, he's in the trees, and then you just, where's he at? And then he just comes down from like, let's say right behind you from a tree, and just uses Leaf Blade on you. I think that would be a really fun way of using it. And now we have our first fighting type, Hariyama. Like Tyranitar, he's not going to be the fastest on the battlefield, so mobility is going to be a bit limited, but he's going to make that up by being able to toss his opponent around. Basically use him as a ragdoll, and then just like, not kind of like Sumas, because that's what he's based off of, but literally just pick his opponents up, especially if they're smaller, and if he's able to grab hold of them and just like pile drive them back into the ground. I also would like to think that he would have small battlefield manipulation abilities by like let's just say digging into the ground and just tossing a boulder. Even if he's not able to use, like, I don't know, let's say rock throw in the games, he would be able to kind of use a variation of that move in this game by just literally going to the ground, picking up some rocks, and just tossing it. And let's say if he goes against the Tyranitar, and the Tyranitar brings up like these little hills or whatever, Hariyama could, instead of just like trying to go around, force palm or palm thrust or whatever, arm thrust, there we go, and break those little hills and just start moving slowly and just building up momentum until he gets to his opponent. And then last, for our third Pokemon in Hoenn, I would like to have Metagross. I picked him because, one, he can hover, and being a Psychic type like Alakazam could bring forth some good, fun battlefield manipulation. But just as a bit of a explanation, so while yes he can hover, he would still be susceptible to Earthquake, for instance. Part of the reason why is the way how I imagine it is, let's say whenever Earthquake happens, small little jagged like spikes come up into the ground, and while Metagross is hovering, the spikes would still be still be big enough to hit him, causing him to, one, take damage, and two, possibly getting stuck. Now if he does get stuck, this comes into like both his steel typing and his psychic typing by being able to either break through it with, like, let's say if he uses Meteor Mash, or he can use like his psychic abilities to like push the spikes back down, causing himself to get free, and then he could just move forward towards his opponent, finally get some damage in him, or again he could stay a bit back, use some of his psychic moves to deal damage that way. Alright, next up we have Sinnoh. I picked for the starter for Sinnoh, I decided to pick with Infernape. Main reason being is he's a monkey. That would be so much fun to play as by using his tail. So for instance, if you're in the woods, he can use his tail, grab hold of a tree branch and just use it to swing around, and then he's just the mobility of a monkey he would have. I also imagine him being able to use his tail almost as a spring, if, let's say if he gets hit by like a Hariyama or something, if he's successful, he can like use his tail as almost a spring just to jump back forth and use like Fire Punch or Flame Wheel or something like that. I think that, plus as a fighting type, he's going to be strong, so he's going to be able to, same as Hariyama, be able to break through some, like, let's say an ice wall. If an ice type Pokemon uses like, let's say if a ice type Pokemon uses like Ice Beam but has it shape on water, causing it to freeze up like this, kind of like buy some time. One, as a fire type, he could either melt it, or as a fighting type, he could just punch through it and then just work his way through it. And I also like to think that he would be able to use his tail, like I said before, as that spring to jump back in and attack, or even grabbing like his opponent's leg and just like tripping them up, causing them to go on the ground, and he can do some damage that way. Next up, we got Gastrodon. Now, as a water ground type, I think that this is mainly, again, kind of like a battlefield manipulation. The way how I imagine it happening is like, he would be like, if he uses the move Muddy Water, well, it's a water type move, the way how I imagine it happening in this game is that he pretty much causes like the ground to become muddy, hence Muddy Water. So he would become, normally what happens is if you just have Gastrodon, he'd be very slow because he's based off a snail. But by using the move Muddy Water, would cause mud to appear, causing him to actually be able to speed up and move a little bit faster. I would say, let's say, for instance, just doesn't make any sense, but movement wise, let's say he moves at 1 mile per hour normally, so he's very slow. But by using Muddy Water, let's say that makes his movement speed like 5 miles an hour, so that way he's able to like zip around on the water or on the ground, like the mud, and be a little bit faster, while his opponent, depending on what type it is, possibly is just like stuck in the mud, can't really do anything, and just being able to move around like that. And I also like to think that Surf, like, he could either use it on the water, or if he's already Muddy Water has been used, he can use like the mud and use that. So changing Surf from a water type move to a ground type move, bringing forth a new, like, just a new strategy. Because like if you go with the Gastrodon, you're like, oh crap, okay, can't use, obviously you can't even use your electric type in the first place because it's not going to affect him. But you also have to take into consideration, like, okay, if he uses Surf, is he going to use it on the water to make it a water type move, or is he going to use a combo of Muddy Water and Surf and making it a ground type move? And I just think that, again, this comes back forth to just like pretty much anime logic and just being able to say, like Seto Kaiba, screw the rule, and just doing something like this. And I think that would be a really fun, unique way of using this Pokemon. Last, for Sinnoh, I picked Weavile. And again, I'm going to be bringing this up with a lot of like past and future mons. I picked him because he's a fast boy. And I also like to think that the way how it works is like how this would work is he can use ice moves to either freeze his opponents, like I was saying earlier with Infernape. You can freeze up a wall to stall your opponent, and as an ice type, he'd be able to move a lot faster on the ice. So he could freeze the ground, and while his opponents would be slipping and sliding, he could skate. I'm just using this. He could skate on the ice, being able to have a lot more mobility that way, and then just shattering the ice, using it as cover or causing damage. So, like, let's say Ice Shard, you can like freeze the wall, and he can shatter it himself, and causing ice shards and causing the opponent to, like, let's say, get blinded or just having to defend themselves and just not knowing what to do, and also freeze your opponent because ice. And I just think that that would be just so much fun and just doing that. And that does it for the first half of this series. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and the next part should be out hopefully same time next week. What did you think of the list? Would you change? What Pokemon would you change? Or did you like the entire list? Just as a bit, when it came to me choosing the Pokemon, when it came to the Pokemon, I wanted something that I think would have a lot more either speed, like I said with a lot of Pokemon, whether or not they'd be fun to use, like controlling the battlefield or everything, and whether or not how viable would they be on ground or on the land and on the water. So that's why, for instance, some Pokemon like Lapras, I love Lapras, I really do, but Lapras is mainly like a seafaring Pokemon, and while in the games, the normal games, you can use it no problem, but for the fact that you're taking control of Lapras and you might not always be near a body of water, and you might not be able to make that said body of water, Lapras would be very much at a disadvantage, because unless you do like in the Orange Islands where you create like an ice beam and you just make a path to where Lapras can like move around, I don't think that would be very fun to play as, just because you'd be at a disadvantage. All you could do is just like crawl. Now, and same with some of the fish Pokemon. Yeah, they can, they've shown to like hover in the games above ground, but like if you go and look at the show, they're only really good. They're not good outside of water. So again, you might not always be near a body of water, and if you like, let's say if you threw out like Magikarp, or Magikarp's just gonna splash around on the ground. Same, and Gyarados, I think it's only like in the anime, it's only ever been shown in the water. I don't think it's ever actually shown like it like hovering outside of water. If that's the case, I very well could be mistaken, but I just wanted something that would have could go on land or water very well, like one of the Pokemon in this list, or Gastrodon, depending on where I put this part. So with that being in mind, that's why some Pokemon may not have made it in this list. If like I said, if down below, if you want to leave a Pokemon that you would involve, that's fine. That's more than fine. If you wanted to pick like a Milotic, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't put it on. Is because I think it can crawl like slither on land, but as a water type and evolving from Feebas, I just didn't think that that would be in my game. I don't think that would be as fun to play as. But if you want Milotic in this game, but with all the other ones, by all means, that's fine. This is just a little thing for fun. Also, I think I've said this at one point, but this is the first time that I've actually scripted something out. And I didn't follow it word for word, just because I only did like a basic description, and I wanted to go a little bit more in depth. So let me know. Did you enjoy this like the more scripted aspect of it, or do you want me to just go more off the top of my head, stuff like that? Just let me know down below. But as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all have a fantastic day, and I'll see y'all later.